This administration believes that the only way to build that new foundation for our economy is to establish a new role for service in this country. Far too long, we viewed service in our communities as largely separate from our policies in government. There's a sense that service is helpful, but not necessarily essential. That is something that folks should do maybe on occasion, particularly around the holidays. Maybe you do something, you do it to fulfill a requirement, or maybe just to fulfill yourself. But we come to believe that the real work of moving this nation forward somehow is done elsewhere, in committee rooms and boardrooms, in marble hallways and in West Wing offices. We've come to believe that service is just something that's a little extra, the icing on the cake, but not actually part of the cake itself. And I've seen this way of thinking play out in my own life. As you know, I started my career in a big fancy law firm, working for big companies, making big money. And when I decided to leave all of that for public service, well, people thought I had lost my mind. My mother worried that I had taken her advice to follow my heart just a little too far. And my friends worried that I was throwing away a lucrative paycheck and a prestigious career all in one fell swoop. And my husband experienced the same thing when he decided after college that he wanted to be a community organizer working in struggling neighborhoods in Chicago. There was some And while all of you here understand the power of that vision, there were many who tried to convince him to go straight to law school instead. You've heard that. Go to law school. His friends all gave him a nice pat on the back before they went off to mail their admissions office applications to graduate school. And while everybody thought that our hearts were in the right place, a lot of people wondered whether our heads were on straight. And many of you probably heard these same voices in your own lives, right? The voices that tell you, well, that's awfully nice that you want to do good, but when are you going to get a real job? Or maybe you've heard, if you don't get paid a lot of money for what you do, then maybe what you do isn't that valuable. Or maybe you've heard, if you really want to make a difference and change the world, you need to do something with more prestige, something more powerful, more important. But what these folks don't understand is that the story of progress in this nation has always been the story of people who chose in times of trial and struggle to serve it. The founders who set forth the ideals that have animated our democracy for more than 2 centuries. The soldiers who fought and died for those ideals. The abolitionists and suffragists and people who marched and stood up and sat in to ensure the ideals of this nation would endure. The ordinary folks who've reached out to the least among us, providing a measure of dignity to people who have little else. What they've done for this country isn't extra. It's not something on the side. It's not just a little icing. It's what ensured our existence as a nation. It's ensured the basic rights of our citizens. It's ensured the well-being of our children. Our history is a long testament to the fundamental truth that real change, as we've heard from someone else, doesn't come from the top down from Washington, but it comes from where? The bottom up. From citizens working and mobilizing and serving the nation that they love. That's how real change happens. And today, at this defining moment, this administration doesn't just see service as something that transforms just individual lives or even just individual communities. This is an administration who knows that service has the power to transform this nation. It truly does. So the question becomes, now how do we mobilize that force? How do we mobilize that energy? How do we connect people with opportunities? How do we connect needs with deeds? And we know that many folks are eager to give back. We've seen it. They're eager to be a part of this nation's recovery and renewal. You've seen it in the work that you do. People want to get involved. As hard examples, applications to AmeriCorps have quadrupled. In the Peace Corps, last year there were 3 applications for every available position. 35,000 young people applied for just 4,000 slots in Teach for America. And so many members of the baby boom generation are reaching retirement age, and they are ready and eager to find ways to keep contributing. People across this country are ready to answer the call to serve. We just need to issue that call and provide them with these opportunities that are meaningful. That's why the president has urged people to serve. Particularly on Martin Luther King Day, he made the call, and as a result, we saw the largest turnout in history on that day. That's why this administration is creating a community solutions fund to nurture the best, most innovative nonprofits out there, to support the next generation of Jeff Canadas and Wendy Copps and Dorothy Stonemans, and to replicate efforts like theirs all across America. That's why the president signed historic national service legislation, the Edward M. Kennedy Service America Act, expanding Senior Corps, AmeriCorps, Learn and Serve, and other initiatives to usher in a new era of service.